Good Tuesday morning to you. It took me a little bit to reposition myself in my kitchen because the sun is so bright today. And as we are on this Tuesday after Easter, the sun is bright, isn't it? I mean, how do we go through Holy Week and Easter and then return back to normal? There should be something about us that feels different. And I know in our life and society, it's easy after a couple days for everything to kind of go back to a rhythm. It seems like as Americans especially, we have short-term memory problems, right? We forget what we've learned in the moment and we revert back so quickly. But as Easter people, as Christians, our life should be different. In the glow of Easter morning, in the sunrise, as the sun rose, we should live differently. It should challenge us, call us, invite us, and excite us to be different people. It's always around this time of the year that I love to reread C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. It's a beautiful book on how Christianity was sought through a academic's eyes, but how it spoke to his heart and changed him. C.S. Lewis writes this particular quote. It's one of my favorites, and I thought it was appropriate for this morning. He says this: "Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps, you can understand what he is doing. He's getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof, and so on. You knew that the job needed doing, and so you're not surprised. But presently, he starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abdominally and does not seem to make any sense. What on earth is he up to? The explanation is that he is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. Throwing out the old wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it himself." What a great image, right? For this Tuesday after Easter and for this week after Easter, what a great image. For all the time that is yet to come as we bask in the glow of a new season, a new sense of life and love. What a great image. God is making all things new in you and in me. Paul talks about this throughout his letters, especially, I think, most prominently in Galatians. In Galatians 2:20, he says, "It is no longer I who lives, but Christ who lives within me." And I can't ever help but read C.S. Lewis's quote about the house with Paul having Christ live with him. The death I die, right? The new life I live. It's like God is building a house out of us. But sometimes I think in all of our faithful expectation and all of our faithful response, we imagine that God is building a certain kind of house. God is doing a certain kind of work within us. Maybe God's smoothing out some rough edges here or there. Or maybe he's changing an aspect of who we are or something about us that we've struggled with. But have we ever imagined that God's just tearing down walls completely and rebuilding us in a way that we've never imagined ourselves to be capable of, to be possible? See, God sees a lot more potential in us than we see in ourselves and sometimes even in each other. What does it look like for God to truly resurrect something new in you? I think about Jesus as he came out of the tomb. Between Easter Sunday and the first Sunday after Easter, we talk a lot about Jesus presenting himself to his disciples. And one of the things he'll say, "Touch my hands, put your hand in my side." Jesus comes out of the tomb with sores. They aren't healed. He isn't made new in a way that makes him look someone other than himself. He comes out with all those wounds. And yet, he is restored. He is anew. See, that's the same for you and I. We walk around this life still with the wounds and the scars that life just gives us. You know, whether it's this world and its brokenness or it's the brokenness within ourselves that causes us to have these scars, we walk around, God's making something new, but we still have the wounds. We still have the scars. They've healed, they've crusted, maybe they've grown new tissue. But even still, God is creating something anew in you. God is resurrecting something completely different with you. See, that's the beauty of these weeks after Easter, is to have our eyes open the way God would want our eyes to be open, to see things as God might want us to see things. We're always going to be limited by our sinful, broken self, but that's the beauty of faith. It empowers us and it creates something of new potential, new life, new opportunity. Just like the new house that God is building, it may surprise you that God's building a palace and not a cottage. Just like the wounds that you carry, it may surprise you that God hasn't completely taken those wounds away, and yet you are different. You are stronger. You are more beautiful than you've ever been. That's the beauty of how God's at work. It's always about God's perception, not ours. Hope you have a great Tuesday.